Now, we proudly present the fabulous Bourguet brothers.
My brother Napoleon and I would like to share the history of the Bourguet Brothers Band. Napoleon, who is the oldest, 2 years older than myself, I was born in 1920, and I was born in 1923. Father Canova was a priest in Monticello, New Mexico, and he wanted to start a band, get the boys interested in playing some instrument, and he got the boys from Monticello to start a band. He furnished the instruments, he could read music, and he started the band, and they started well. But after a while, somehow or other, some of them weren't able to attend the practices, so as a result, the band closed up. They were stored in my grandmother's storage room in the house right next to where we used to live, in Monticello. My uncle had a job. He used to live right close to us. My grandma was just about 30 feet away from home to home. And he went to California, and when he came back, he bought a trumpet over there. And in the meantime, we used to practice in these instruments that Father Canova bought for the other band, because they did not get rid of those instruments for quite a number of years. And we used to go over there and start blowing on the instruments and learning music by ear. And that was our beginning, part of our beginning. In 1932, Uncle Lee used to be a musician already. He used to play with a Carvajal band, who are related to us on my father's side. And on my mother's side, we had the Martinez brothers. In those days, they used to be a touring band also. And he had knowledge of music, so he got us together to start the band. And he was the one that started the Bourguet Brothers Band. And my uncle was Stanislao Montoya, had an interest in there too, because he furnished the trumpet. Anyway, my Uncle Lee started the band, and between me and my other first cousin, we were competing to be who was a drummer. So I beat him, and I was able to join the band then as a drummer. So my Uncle Lee started the band. My brother and my Uncle Lee used to play trumpets, and we had Eduardito playing guitar, and I was the drummer in those days. That was the beginning.
In 1935, just my mother got sick, and we took her to hot springs so she could see the doctor out there.
My mother took sick several times, and we alternated between Hot Springs and Monticello. And my dad was always very interested in education. He always felt that we should go to the city schools, he used to call them, from the rural schools. So he was always wanting to take us there. So my mother, one time she took sick, and then we'd go back to Monticello, back and forth from Monticello to Hot Springs. And then then finally we built our home in Hot Springs. We traveled back and forth, and at that point in time, we were living in Monticello. So from there, we started going to school in Monticello, and this instructor, Ibarra from Albuquerque, was instructing the CC camps, Conservation Corps, Civilian Conservation Corps. And we went, he started teaching music there at the school, and we used to pay him individually. The parents used to pay for the schooling. So after that, some of the students could not afford it, or otherwise some of them dropped out, because there was too few of us, and he wouldn't warrant his coming from the CC camps to teach down in Monticello. So we traveled from Monticello to the CC camp, which was three miles, on horseback to study music. And we traveled back and forth every weekend. And that's where that was part of our beginning in music. My Uncle Lee had passed away after about probably 1934. And then as a result. Then I moved up to trumpet because we were already playing for dances already in that time. In 1932, we played for our first wedding in Placita.
Jeff and I used to play for the Hot Springs High School Band, and Jeff got an award. And we also went to El Paso for the Samba Hombre.
In 1942, we were drafted into the service, and when I went in the service, they wanted a band within the company, the Army, and we started a band, but it didn't last too long. That was just a shortcoming because they were moving the soldiers overseas to where they were fighting for the fighting fronts, so that didn't last very long.
In 1946, I met my wife, Amalia Armejo, in Hot Springs, and we got married. We have been married for over 58 years. We have 4 children, 11 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. My wife has always been a great support for me as a musician. She's a wonderful lady.
In 1942 to 1946, we were in the military. We had already played for 10 years down the southern part of New Mexico. In 1947, we returned from the military, and we moved to Albuquerque from Hot Springs. And we started our band here in Albuquerque. And as we grew, we added more people to our band. And finally, we had it up to 8 musicians in the last 20 years. And the names of the band members are Napoleon Bourguet, Jeff Bourguet, Louis Flores, Gabby Gabaldon, Albert Garcia, Manuel Garcia, Efren Griego, Tony Lovato, Gabe Maldonado, Mike Ulivari. Efren Griego was a blind fellow who played with us for about 25 years. He was a terrific musician. He was well known all over the state of New Mexico, just like the Bourguet Brothers Band. Efren Griego was with us for about 25 years, and he had previous experience. They used to have their own band in the family. They were all blind. The family was all blind, and all brothers and sisters. There was 4 of them. And he passed away about 2 years ago. And he's well known. You hear him on radio all the time with his songs and ballads that he used to do. He used to be a very good saxophone player. He played tenor sax, and also he sang beautifully. Efren was just like family from the day we met him. This band was always built on family principles. This is family life. We were all family oriented, and we hired people that needed help. In fact, Moises Arellano came from El Paso, and his neighbors told me that this family was very much in need. He had a brother, a daughter, a sister, and a mother. And this neighbor of his came to me and asked me for work for him, and he was a terrific pianist. He played a beautiful piano. And then I had 2 others. I had, besides, there was Efren Remigio Chavez, another pianist that I hired also at different times, and Moises Arellano. We also had people that were attending high school that worked with us, Bobby Chavez, and we had some people that were attending UTEP in El Paso. They worked with us for about a year trying to build up some funds to go back to school. We had another individual also from New Mexico State University also that hired out with us. So we were out not only helping the economy, we helped out. My band was well known, and we contributed many a times when there was a need. People sponsoring dances for benefit dances, like for cancer-ridden patients and others. We helped out a lot in the economy and otherwise, and for the people that were in need. In 1949, there was a friend of ours from Tiercy, or Truth or Consequences, and they were there, and downtown, and I always was looking for instruments, and they happened to be right close to the instrument May's Music downtown. And I happened to be there, and then this girl, Mabel, talked to me and says, "How are you doing, Jeff?" I says, "I'm fine." And she introduced me to my wife, and she told my wife, "There's a good catch for you," and that's how we met, and that's after a certain length of time after we recorded, we got married. Julia was a beautiful woman, and after 55 years of marriage, still is. I'll never forget over the years how Julia has really sacrificed and supported me as a musician, taking care of the kids and all. She's a very special lady. I give a lot of credit to all the wives of our musicians. It is a tough job to be a wife of a musician. You've got to be a very special person. Each one of the wives deserves our thanks and our respect. It is wonderful, and music has been a wonderful experience for us, and we owe it to our public. All our public has been nice to us. We worked with the we worked for the firefighters, we worked for the FOP, we worked a lot of political rallies. We used to start down in Belen and come up the river, playing in every little town for political rallies. And then we had others. We worked, in fact, I've worked every high-rise building here that has a nightclub or dancing facility in Albuquerque. We've touched every one. And we worked in Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona. We've worked in Arizona for some large state conventions. We worked for the Lieutenant Governor's Conference Ball, which was a prestigious dance. We had 50 states represented, and we had the honor of playing for that. In 1970, my brother was honored to be padrinos or sponsors at a wedding in Las Cruces. We had to play here in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Civic Auditorium for the GI Forum Ball, and it was going to be on the air. So I pleaded with him to come down and help me out. And as a faithful member to the Bourguets, he appeared that night, and we had a successful night. I owe my brother the gratitude and respect for what he did or what he has meant to the band. In 1971, we recorded our first album, and it was called Los Incomparables Bourguet Brothers. And after that, our business increased by about 30%. In 1980, we were asked to play for the Blanco y Negro dance at the Civic Auditorium. And that was a real prestige dance. It was a beautiful setting, a black and white dress attire. In 1985, the Bourguet Brothers we recorded our second album, and it had more response than even the first one. So we've been very fortunate every time our business increasing, and now we're playing all over the state of New Mexico, every little town north from Albuquerque on north, and we've played all the towns north, south, east, and west in the state of New Mexico. There's no little town that we just have not touched base with the band. The whole band has built, even from the beginning. It was Father Canoa started the Santa Cecilia band, and I think that's brought a blessing. And this is very family-oriented band. We were close to each other. We were helpful and devoted every time, every week. We practiced. We were disciplined. They disciplined themselves. We have practice every week. On Wednesday, it was practice night. On weekends, we were up doing our jobs, and we were well prepared for it. The band members always took great pride in themselves and the band. They loved what they were doing, and they had an interest on it. They even had covers on their bands with the Bourguet Brothers band notices on the back end of their bands. The Bourguet Brothers band have been selected many times to play different kinds of functions, like the Lieutenant Governor's Conference, where 50 states were represented. We have political rallies, we have school dances, school benefit dances. We played for all the Blanco y Negro, Baile en España, and the many benefit dances, and also thousands of weddings that we've done all over the state. And we worked for the Policeman's Ball in Gallup, New Mexico, State Policeman Ball. We worked for the National Convention for Elks, Knights, and also the GI Forum in Winslow, Arizona. We worked for all county, state, national activities that are taking place all over the state and elsewhere. The Bourguet Brothers have been honored by playing for a lot of functions. Any one that you may mention, they have been a part of. And we played for the third generation people. We played for their fathers, the Tafoyas, their sons, and their children. This is the third generation band. We've worked for 70 years total with the Bourguet Brothers. As I mentioned earlier, this is a family-oriented band. Over the years, one of the things that has really blessed Napoleon and I is that each of our three sons began their music careers with the Bourguet Brothers. They grew up to be great musicians and are still very busy playing great music today. My nephew, my brother's son, Alfred, plays with the Checkers at the present time, and also Mariachi Corazon. My son Jeff Jr. played with the Purple Haze for many years. My son Alfred has also played with several great bands. He's now playing with Tobias Rene and doing a great job. He's such an incredible musician. I am so proud of him. Alfred Bourguet, my nephew, and my two sons, Jeff and Alfred, got their stage fright worked out with the Bourguet Brothers.
I remember when our kids were growing up, after the dances I would bring hamburgers for the whole family. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. We were eating hamburgers in the middle of the night.
In 1995, I was awarded the Senate Memorial in honor of my 70 years of service to the public as a band leader. All my musicians were so family-oriented and devoted to the band that they gave out their hearts when they were singing, like Luis Flores, like Efren Griego, like Gabe Maldonado, and Manuel. They all contributed with the vocal. Mike Hilleberry gave 20 years of outstanding service as a crooner to the Bourguet Brothers. In 1997, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce awarded the Bourguet Brothers a Lifetime Achievement Award. After 70 years, I retired from the Bourguet Brothers band, and I now am enjoying life in a different manner. I'm going to listen to other groups and dancing with them at this point in time. Here in Albuquerque, I can go to a doctor, I can go to a store, and I can call a serviceman of any kind, and they are there, and they always tell me, we danced to your music, you played for my daughter, you played for all my family's graduations, and other dances that they've attended with the Legions, the post-Legions, and all the other places of engagements. They tell me, we miss dancing to your music. My brother Nap has a very, very good sense of humor. He always would make us laugh when we were in a tight one in our music engagements or in the performance.
Well, I was always very happy and I enjoyed it. That's why I liked to play, I liked the band. That's why I was in the band. And if somebody likes the band, going to stay with it till the end.
In 1970, we were on our way to play at Mountaineer, New Mexico for a wedding. And we left Albuquerque about 4 o'clock. We got as far as Tahica. This bus driver met us. He says, "Fellas, you'll never make it." He says, "I just came through and it's snowing." And he says, "You better turn back." So we did turn back, and I had a blind fellow with me, and we got stuck a number of times. We left Albuquerque, as I stated, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We got back to Albuquerque at 1 o'clock. The plows had just cleared the road for us going in, but when we turned back from Tahica coming back, it took us 4 hours to get back to Albuquerque. Alvy Hill, who was blind, helped us push the car all through the night. When we were working in Cuba, New Mexico for a fiesta dance, people were already there. The place was packed and with people, and when we started walking in, they just started laughing and roaring and having fun, and I just wondered what was going on. So I looked back, and Luciano Perea, he was my sax player. He was walking in behind us, and there was about 6 inches of snow outside. So he packed his hat with about 6 inches of snow on top, and when he walked in, he looked like an Eskimo. So everybody just started roaring and laughing and clapping and having a good time by seeing him.
I always remember the good times we had with the band and people dancing.
After 70 years, I look back and I tell parents, keep your children in music. That's one way to keep them out of the street. And I have always tried to keep mine because they have been dedicated to music, and so have my nephews. They're all musically inclined. When I'm asked what's important, God comes first, and then my family and my friends out there who enjoyed my band for so many years. I am so grateful to each and every one out there that's listened for us or with us for 70 years. When I'm asked what advice I give young musicians, I tell them it's practice, practice, practice.
Well, what I find important is that if they stay straight and don't go into drugs and stuff like that, they'll come out at the end doing all right.
After 70 years, I want to thank my friends, my family, and all the Dance to the Bourguet brothers for all the wonderful times and their support. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Give me one. Well, I'm a train, I'm a plane, but if I have to walk, I'm going to the same. Going to Kansas City, right home. Well, my Kansas City baby, there ain't nothing gonna get me one. Well, my Kansas City baby, there ain't nothing gonna get me two.